I'm Jeff Hans.
And I'm Dave Burrows.
Welcome to Free Bad Movies, guys. This is where we watch a movie on Netflix. We tell you the best parts, tell you what sucked, and give you a rating out of 5 bacon strips. If you want to check out these movies for yourself, you can head over to Netflix.com. You can get a free month of streaming service and tell us what you think. You might notice that we're doing things slightly different yet again, but we feel that this is a special occasion given this particular movie.
I did not want to drag up the table, set up the backdrop, because it's not worth it. This movie is not worth my time.
This is all my fault, by the way. This is all my fault. Every once in a while, you choose a movie on Netflix, and it's a random movie, sitting at home with your girlfriend or your wife, and you just want to watch something, but you don't want to spend that 4 hours looking for the perfect movie, which often happens when you're perusing through Netflix. I wanted to watch a movie, not an abortion.
When I want to watch a movie with my boyfriend or husband, I don't want to have to stop 4 times because I'm jabbing a fork in my eye.
Be forewarned, I do not recommend this movie to anyone.
So the movie that we saw, Branded. Branded was a movie.
Was it?
It was the correct length of time for a movie.
There were actors.
It had that guy from Arrested Development in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was surprised that he wanted to be a part of any of this.
And then there was that girl that you forget so easily.
She was in Glass House. She kind of looks like Helen Hunt. The story takes place in Russia with a ad agent and an ad agency, and the entire movie is about advertising or something.
It starts off with him working in a stand, and he was marketing as a superpower to make the stand successful. And then when he wanted a raise for building on success, he was like, "That'll do real too fast." So he takes his marketing superpowers and he goes into the marketing world and he markets things and makes money.
And supposedly he's the best at what he does, but from what you see in the film, you can tell that it's just a fantasy world. There's no way that any of this would work.
45 minutes in, I'm wondering, when is something going to happen?
The build-up for this movie is just absolutely god-awful. And I didn't understand some of the characters that they added in, and some of the subplots that were going on, and some of the dialogue that was unnecessary. It just made no sense.
When someone says, "Don't bang her,"
Probably shouldn't bang her?
No, you're probably gonna get banged.
Oh.
Okay. Russian traffic is famous because of how ridiculous it is. It gets gridlocked, and there's so many people out there. So you have time to have sex in your car, okay? And you have all this time to have sex in your car, and with all these people, your uncle just drives by. That makes sense.
I don't know that I even have a favorite part to this movie because it was so terrible. But conceptually, this is what drew me into the film. Conceptually, it sounded like it would be an interesting film because it was pretty much a commentary on the villainous advertising and the cutthroat industry of advertising and how that affects the everyday person. And I thought it was a neat look at that. And if you see the preview, you see a bunch of monstrous alien-looking things that are everywhere in the city of Russia.
Attach themselves to the top of buildings.
And they attach themselves to people as well. And to see that in the preview, you think this is going to be the primary focal point of the movie, but you don't see any of that until the last 20 minutes. And this movie was a good close to 2 hours long.
It was like an hour 45, and it did take until like the hour 25 to finally see these things happening.
So I would say conceptually, great idea. Execution, not so much.
Well, Jeffrey, I'm going to surprise you here. I have 2 favorite parts to this movie.
Oh, it was one of them the ending?
Yeah.
When it was over and the credits were rolling?
No, but I can list that as a third. The first one would be when the man went bat crazy. That would be the main character. And he starts seeing these things, and he couldn't control it, and he didn't understand it. Everything is so terrible. And he just starts throwing everything everywhere, rips all the food out of the fridge and all the food off the table, and starts throwing everything off the counter. He's like, oh, because that's what I wanted to do when I watched this movie.
Yeah, kind of.
This movie made me want to go crazy.
Throw a temper tantrum. Yeah, kind of wanted. But he immediately cleaned it up right after that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I do that?
Like,
I wasn't expecting
I
you to come home so
probably
early.
shouldn't have done this.
So my second favorite thing is when the story actually gets into the I understand the crazy. And you see this bubble, and it hatches, and a dragon comes out.
But I thought
It was a little too late.
I don't know what the budget was on this film, but it looked like the CG was pretty amateur. There's a lot of stuff that sucked in this film. There's a big list. I'm gonna let you start, and then I'll fill in the gaps.
The grand point was he wanted to eradicate marketing, but who gives a flying about that? Like, it was like, oh, let me obliterate fat people, because that was what I thought it was going to be about.
I thought it was going to be about that too.
It was about this burger place and how it was making everybody fat, and he got rid of that place,
And he kept going.
and that could have been the end. Like, you go, oh, Russia isn't fat anymore, thanks to me.
To add on to that, the acting was pretty terrible. The writing was terrible. There were unnecessary cutscenes. There were unnecessary plot devices. There were unnecessary characters that didn't even need to be in the film at all.
And it was unnecessary because everybody spoke English, and then they would just say Russian things.
They're in Russia, yet all the news reports in English. Yet some of the people that are talking on the sidewalk, the streets of Russia, speaking in Russian. Why are your news reports in English? The other thing that made this seem like a completely amateur film was the use of the narrator.
Oh, yeah, what?
The narrator that follows you through this entire film. Now, most movies will let you lead to a conclusion by showing you a cutscene and or putting some overlay over a dream sequence. Prior to every little scene or change of plot device or some major plot point in the film, there was a narrator telling you what was happening or what had happened. There was a series of events that had happened prior to getting to this point in the film that needed to be explained. I personally think that the main character could have explained all of this to another person in a conversation like you and I are having, and you would not need this narrator whatsoever. And just going from the narrator to these cutscenes that they take the screen and they take it from a full screen film and then cut it down to a basic TV size where it has the boxed off,
It was boxed off?
edges. That's how they told you this is a flashback or this is another thing that happened that isn't right now. And it just made it unwatchable. It made no sense to take this narrator to explain things when you could have just put it in the film and we would have figured it out ourselves.
Bacon rating! Again, I'm going to shock you a little bit. I'm going to give this a 5 pieces of Canadian bacon, because this was horse shit. But if you really want to know how many strips of bacon, I would take a strip of bacon, cut it in half, then cut that piece in half, and give you a quarter piece of bacon. And when you get that quarter piece of bacon, you're like, why would you even give me this bacon? It's not good enough for me to even have this. That's how I felt about this movie.
This was terrible, and I regret having ever seen it on Netflix in the first place. You got me. You fooled me. You fooled me, Netflix, and this film fooled me with the concept. I thought the concept was going to be so... I had high hopes. I had high hopes. So, my bacon rating is a little unorthodox because I am going to give it a single bacon bit, which isn't even real bacon. It's just bacon-flavored crusty crap. I'm giving it a bacon bit, and that's all you're getting.
They shake him out, and it's just a little flake.
Just that. That's it. And the only reason I'm even giving it that is because of the concept. If you would have executed the concept better, great movie. So basically, don't see this movie. That's where we're going to leave this at. We didn't even feel the need to set up our set because this was so terrible. Hopefully next week will be better. I promise good things in the future. Maybe we'll just do a movie that we know is good. All right, I'm Jeff Hans.
I'm Dave Burrows.
And we'll see you next week.